How the ego evolves as you evolve. The ego is not going anywhere. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Mind Engineer. Here, Tommy Walker sharing insight and tools to help you with the mind, because it's one of the most important tools that we need to align to help us move in different aspects of our life that we might be stuck, not being able to move forward, not be able to become the version of us that we're meant to be here on earth. As I always say, I believe that we're spiritual beings living a human experience, but unfortunately we live in a prison in here because of our mind that is in a way holding us back for different reasons. And one of the things I want to talk today, that I've talked a little bit in the past, but is very important, about the ego. I have heard in so many groups in so many different places that, people starting wars with the ego. The ego needs to die. We need to get rid of the ego, as if the ego were something bad that is trying to screw your life. And although it might be doing things that it might get you stuck, like self-sabotage, procrastination, maybe falling into perfectionism, maybe falling into control or different aspects, the ego is a part of you. If we look behind the ego, you're going to find a part of you. The ego is not an external being, an external thing that got into you and is running the show. The ego is an alternative that you created when you were a kid to feel love and acceptance. So the ego is still you. So imagine that my hand is hurting because I have, arthritis, I have something, and I start smashing my hand with my other hand and start punching it because it's hurting. That's not going to fix anything. So when we go into war from the ego to the ego is still controlling, and the ego is always going to win, because one or the other is going to win. The one fighting or the one defending is going to win, and that's the ego. So as you grow consciously, as you become more conscious, the ego becomes more subtle in how it tries to control you and your life. Because again, if I have learned that if I can control others, others might love me, or I'm going to avoid going through pain. And then I start saying that I cannot control others and I want to let go control. Already, when I say I need to let go control, imagine later on in life, doing spirituality, personal development, whatever, you started realizing that trying to control others is wrong. So look how the ego works, and it's amazing, guys. Listen to this. As you realize that you cannot control others, the ego says, oh shit, they have found me. They have realized what I'm doing. I need to do something to stay, but not seem so evident. So look what the ego does. The ego says, oh, I need to stop trying to control others. I need to stop trying to control others. So now the ego is trying to control you so that you don't control others. It is still there. It just changed into, instead of trying to control externally, it's trying to control internally. And you have no idea how many opportunities I've had to talk to leaders, to see leaders in place, to talk to conscious leaders, and they were still using ego to control. They were not trying to control their team or other people, but they were controlling themselves. That is how the ego transforms itself into something more subtle, so you don't see it. So whatever you're doing up here, you might do it less, but it's still going to be there, because the ego is just going to become more subtle to get in the way, to get what it's looking for. So again, remember, the ego was created out of a lack of love and acceptance. That part of you that chose to change did it to feel loved and accepted. So imagine when I was a kid and I was very emotional and my parents couldn't deal with that, they started judging and criticizing me for being too emotional. So I started learning that that was not acceptable, that I needed to change, that I needed to stop being so emotional. So I rejected a part of me. That's how I created ego. I've learned that I need to be very critical to myself to get things done. I ask most of the people that I work with, why do you think we have the inner critic? And they say, I have no idea. I ask them, what's the benefit of the inner critic? And most people that I work with, they say that there is no benefit of the inner critic. And I tell them, okay, so when you were a kid between 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and you were not doing what was expected by your parents, what did your parents do to control you to change your behavior? And they tell me, they criticize me, they judge me, they rejected me. Oh, okay. So could we call that the critic? And they're like, yes. So you've learned that through the inner critic, you've changed. Because as a little kid, when they judge you, criticize, or rejected you, what did you do? And they tell me, oh, Tommy, I changed to adapt, to stop being judged, criticized, and rejected. So what your brain saw is that the inner critic is going to get you where you want, is going to get you to change. That's what happened when you were a little kid. Now the million-dollar question is it still working? And most people say, no, it's not working. Okay, but by telling yourself that the inner critic has no benefit, you're judging the inner critic. You're judging the part of you that is judging to get a result. So you're feeding it. Listen to that, guys. You're feeding the inner critic by judging it. So ego is still in control. So now you're judging the judge. That is ego. Again, see how ego changes and adapts to keep you stuck. Before, you would criticize yourself for not getting this, not doing that, not being able to get that result, not being able to be in the stage of your life you would like to, or in the place that you would like to. And now you're judging the part of you judging you. That is ego again. I need to let go. Ego. I need to forgive. Ego. I need to stay positive. Ego. See how ego is ingrained in personal development and spirituality. In spirituality, in most groups, they talk about you have to be positive. You gotta let go. You gotta forgive. You have to feel gratitude. And what if I don't feel that? Oh, you gotta feel it. It's like, what if I cannot let go? Oh, you have to let go. That is ego running the show, but it's dressed as a personal development guru or as a spiritual guru, but it's still ego. Because as I always say, guys, spirit loves and accepts anything, everything. So if you're smoking, ego is going to try to control you to stop smoking. That is ego. Controlling to stop smoking, controlling to stop drinking is ego. That doesn't mean that you're going to go drink or smoke. Don't get me wrong. But when you're able to love and accept the part of you behind the behavior, loving and accepting the part of you that created that behavior in the first place to protect itself. Loving and accepting the part of you that was created to protect yourself. So instead of judging yourself, instead of criticizing yourself for what you're doing, the idea is to love and accept the part of you behind the behavior. Because I'm going to tell you a little secret. The ego cannot love and accept the parts of you that are supposedly not acceptable. That is the only spiritual experience that the ego cannot take control over. Because when you're loving, and you know when you're forcing yourself to pretend that you're loving. So when you're truly loving a part of you, someone else, even if they're not behaving like they should, that's true love, unconditional love. When you do anything else, like trying to feel positive, doing affirmations, trying to feel gratitude, trying to let go, trying to forgive, trying to whatever, normally that is ego. And ego is taking over with another mask to stay there with you. I have seen so many so-called personal development gurus, spiritual gurus, that you could see very evidently their ego, but they were not even aware of. Why? Because it becomes more and more subtle. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I don't have ego, because I also have it. But when we say, oh, I have killed my ego is dead, that is BS. That's your ego talking so that you don't keep trying to get rid of it. The ego is going to be till the day we die. That's why I wrote here, the ego is not going anywhere. We need to learn how to integrate it, how to love and accept it. We need to stop trying to fight it. If there is a part of me trying to fight the ego, address it. Hey, thank you for what you're trying to do. I appreciate what you're trying to do. What is the benefit of attacking the ego? I'm talking to ego that is attacking another part of you, ego. So what is the idea, the intention? What's the benefit of attacking this part over here? And I start having a conversation with a part of me. A lot of people talk about this in psychology. It's called sub-personalities, or parts of you that got stuck in time, cognitively and emotionally. Cognitively and emotionally, and are trying to run the show. The more you go into war with those parts of you, the more you're acting from ego. The more you're able to love and accept what is, whatever that is. Love and accept the part of you that chose to smoke, chose to drink, chose to procrastinate, chose perfectionism, chose to become a control freak, chose to whatever it is. It's a part of you that was lacking love and acceptance in the first place. When you're able to truly do that, and a lot of people tell me, Tommy, I get you what you're saying. Okay, it makes sense. I need to start practicing how to love and accept myself. How do I do that? Grab a picture of yourself and start imagining that little girl in different ages. How were things at home? How was the relationship between mom and dad? How was the relationship with mom towards mom? From dad towards dad? And from them to me and my siblings. And from there, I can start seeing what are the things that I went through that are maybe not resolved. And I created an alternative version of me to survive in that environment. Whatever that is. Tommy, I talk to a lot of people that tell me, oh, but Tommy, my parents gave me what I needed. They were loving to me. Okay, were they loving all the time? Whenever you were struggling with something, were there moments where you felt alone? Do you sometimes feel alone today? And they say, yeah. Okay, something happened during childhood that you might not remember. It doesn't need to be really traumatic, like Gabor Mate talks about. It doesn't need to be capital letter T. It can be small letter T, small letter trauma. It could be that maybe you were going through a tough time and you didn't feel safe to tell your parents that at school you were being bullied, or a kid was molesting you, or whatever. Maybe you were not able to share those things. And that moment got stuck in your mind as an unresolved issue from our past. And the mind is running our unresolved issues from the past as if they were happening now. I work with people that tell me, Tommy, I'm in a safe neighborhood. I'm in a safe place. I don't know what's going on, but I go to sleep and I don't feel safe. And I ask them, how was your childhood? And they start expressing things that how they didn't feel safe as kids. And although now they live in a nice neighborhood, nothing is happening, they have no proof to feel unsafe, they still feel unsafe because their mind is reliving the past that is not resolved. So what I help people with is to start identifying, finding those moments, resolving them, healing them, releasing whatever was stuck there. What was created in a cognitive side? What were the narratives that were created at that moment? I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve. No matter what I do, I will never be good enough. Or whatever it is. I'm unsafe. I have worked with so many people that have had a really tough childhood where they didn't feel safe. And they don't feel safe today. And their narratives is the world is not safe, or my home is not safe. I'm working with a woman that she doesn't want to be at home. And it's her house. She's alone. She's divorced. She had several kids and she wants to be at home, but she cannot be at home. She always finds excuses not to be at home and she doesn't get why. As we started exploring her past, when she was a little girl, there was a lot of fighting between mom and dad, and she was always leaving the house to go to the sports club or something to spend time with friends and not be at home because it was too painful. So today, she couldn't be at home because it reminded her of her past. Once I was working with a woman, this is amazing, guys. Look how the mind works, and it's so mind-blowing. I'm working with a woman that she cannot go to the gym. For years, she had been trying to go to the gym. She had paid several months of subscription and never got to the gym. She would then cancel the subscription, wait a little bit longer, then start paying again, try to go to the gym, and she was never able to go to the gym. So, what are the odds? Look what I'm going to tell you. I start checking her past, right? And she starts telling me that where she lives is in the same town that she used to live as a little girl. So then I asked her, did anything happen in this sports club, that in this gym that you want to go? And she's like, yes, Tommy. When I was around 12 years old, I was in the swimming team and I wasn't able to perform to the level of the team. And the coach kicked me out of the team in a very rude way. He told me that I was useless, that I was never going to make it, that I don't want to see you here again. Get lost. And this guy treated her like a piece of crap. She went walking back home, 12 years old, told dad. Dad blew up in anger, went with her. Dad went with her to the gym and hit the coach in the face, hit him in the face. So this little girl went through so much trauma that she didn't want to go to the gym today as a grown-up. She is in her 40s. She didn't want to go back to the gym because it reminded her of all that memory that she had unresolved from that moment. So we did several exercises along some weeks working on that event. And eventually she released all that weight that she had been carrying for 40 something years, and she was able to start going to the gym. And she couldn't believe it, that something like that had stuck with her entire life, not letting her go to the gym. It wasn't that she was procrastinating, oh, I'm a procrastinator, blah, 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 whatever. She had such a bad experience, so much pain stored inside of her of those events, of that event, that she didn't want to face that again, because if she went to the gym, she would relive in her mind what had happened because it was unresolved. We worked on resolving it, and she was able to start going to the gym. So her ego was in a way protecting her from going to the gym by having excuses like, oh, let's wait a little bit longer. We can go tomorrow. Oh, I'm really tired today. I don't want to go today. Let's go tomorrow. And she kept on postponing it. And it had to do with unresolved issues from her past. And I've seen this over 17 years that I've worked with thousands of people around the world. And it doesn't matter. I have worked with people in 44 countries. I have had the honor to work with people from 44 countries around the world. Some time ago, I did the counting of people with their phone number, and when they register, they put in their where they're from. So it doesn't matter if the person is from Australia, China, Singapore, France, the United States, Canada, Argentina. Doesn't matter. The mind works the same in every country, every culture. Doesn't matter. Yes, some culture have more things related, unresolved with certain things, others with other things, but the mind, how it didn't process the past correctly, it didn't heal, is the same for everyone. It doesn't matter. Seriously, it's amazing how the mind works. So ego is still there trying to protect you with this mask. And now you're trying to put a mask on that is, oh, I need to let go control. I need to let go control. So you're still controlling, but now you try to control yourself. You try to control your emotions. You try to control how you feel. That is still ego. So we got to be very careful because ego is running in the background. And if we're not aware of it, if we don't keep open to validating, recognizing that ego is still there, it's going to run the show and you're not going to even be aware of it. So again, the ego is not going anywhere. The only thing that we can truly do is integrate the parts of us behind the ego. Because remember, ego was created because of a lack of love. What is going to dissolve the ego, integrate that part of us, is unconditional love. Most people go into war with their negative behaviors, but they don't realize that that negative behavior is trying to protect you from something. And that part of you is looking for love and acceptance. The more you go into a war with yourself, the more power the ego wins, the more it's going to control your life. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you enjoy this. I love, talking about these things because people don't realize. And I also have to be aware if ego is getting in the way because it happens to everyone. If I say that I don't have ego anymore, that's ego trying to hide so that I don't keep trying to find it. So as you evolve consciously, ego finds more trickier way, more subtle ways to get in the way. So stop trying to fight the ego. Start loving and accepting what is, and that's going to start dissolving the power of the ego, and you're going to be able to be more who you're meant to be. So again, I hope you enjoy this. Let me know in the comments if you like this, if you've heard this before, if you're struggling with identifying what's going on within you, write the word free, and we'll share a free training with more insight and tools on how the mind works and how to truly be able to start making deep changes. So I hope that makes sense. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. If you stayed till the end, let me know in the comments. And if you like, subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot to get to, more people to see this and benefit from these teachings. So again, thank you very much. And I'll see you next time. Take